Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Attract and Stand Out podcast. I'm your host, Darlene Hawley, and I have with me Emma Tessler. I am so excited to chat with you today and connect and learn a little bit more about you and the work that you do. Welcome to the show, Emma.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and to talk all things social marketing together.
Social media is one of those things that it's like a love-hate relationship with, right? In this day and age, we have to have a social footprint. And we also want to make sure we don't just only spend all of our time on social media, which I can do very easily by scrolling all day long. But we're going to talk about it in a positive way to grow our business today. But Emma, I'm so
Absolutely.
excited you're here and I can't wait to chat and kind of dive in and see where we go with today's conversation. But before we get too far, first off, tell us who the heck are you and how did you start this amazing work that you do?
Yeah. So I am today the founder of 95 Media. So we are a digital marketing agency specializing in social media, email, and podcast marketing. I 100% did not plan to land here by any means. I actually started my career in interior design. So I was going to school. I was in college for design back in 2015, and I was interning for someone who asked me to look into Instagram. She heard that some people were starting to use Instagram for business. She wanted to grow, and I was the youngest person on her team, and she pretty much handed me her phone and she was like, I think you got the, like, you just figure this out. Like, just tell me what we need to be doing here. And I kind of started to poke around to see what was going on. And this was at a time when not a lot of businesses were looking to Instagram to market. It was still radio and TV and billboards and much more traditional marketing, even though that was only 9 years ago.
Ah,
But as I started to explore, I just got really inspired by what was going on, and I realized that this is really the future of how to grow a brand. And I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I didn't plan, to start my own company, but it kind of just lit this fire in me to say, I think I could make a really big impact here if I were to kind of hone these skills and bring them to other businesses. And so I got really inspired by just what I could do by learning more about social media marketing back then. And so as I kind of entered the world of interior design, I started building 95 Media, nights and weekends and just taking on clients. And in 2020, as the pandemic hit, every business finally started realizing that social media marketing was actually the way to go, and they genuinely needed it. And during that year, I ended up leaving corporate, leaving my job, and going all in on building 95 Media. And so since then, we've been able to work with so many businesses and just help them scale their online presence, help them build their brand, and just make the impact that I really was inspired to do back in 2015.
yeah, I love that. It's so fun to hear like the founder stories of how we start our businesses and what gets us there. And you made me laugh when like you were like they were like you're the youngest person here, so you have to figure the social media thing out because I see that so often. Like I know like even sometimes with my kids, I have four kids. I'm like help. I'm like I need
Yeah.
some tech support.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean, at that time I was so excited to figure it out because it was something new and exciting. And thankfully I did, because it totally changed the course of my entire career. So it was really cool. You never know where those little moments can take you.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're like little gems that we're not always expecting. And we find like so much goodness coming from it because we're like, I didn't even know it was going to go this direction. But now that I'm here,
Exactly.
like it totally makes sense and I love it and I'm so passionate about it. And sometimes we find our passion in something that we didn't even realize we were going to be able to find it in. And especially
Totally.
in social media has been, such a huge piece of that. I know a lot of people spend so much time and energy using it. Like, how do we use it smart? How do we use it in a way that's going to really support us, especially as entrepreneurs? Like we can mindlessly scroll all day long. That's not going to grow our business. That's not going to help support us. But when we can get really um, specific on what our goals are with it and how we want to use it and make strategic plans, like that's when so many fun things can happen.
Definitely.
So tell me a little bit about like your ideal client, ideal world, like who are the types of clients that really come to you for your services and what are some of like the cool things that have happened while working with you? Maybe you have a client story or something that you can share with us.
Yeah, the type of brands that typically come to us are businesses who have been doing what they thought they were supposed to be doing. So, they're posting all the time, they're getting on their stories, they're trying to do all the new platforms, trying to be on TikTok and do what the kids are doing and do everything, right? And while they're doing everything and they're putting so much time and effort and oftentimes money into it, they're not actually seeing results from it. And they typically come to us at a really discouraged point where they're just like, I just don't even know, what are we doing here? I don't know what we're doing wrong. I don't know how to fix this. And that is when we're typically coming in and really just kind of relighting the fire. So when we begin working with a brand, we get to, understand their goals for their marketing, which most brands don't actually map out before they start marketing, which is ironic because that's step number one.
Yeah.
But, figuring out their goals, really looking at the data that's coming in as well. That's another element that a lot of brands aren't doing is, every single platform is giving you analytics on every single piece of content you're putting out, but you're probably not looking at it. All
Mhm.
of the information you need lies in that data. It will tell you what's working and what's not working, and what your audience is connecting to, and what they want you to stop doing. So we dive into that. We build out a whole strategy, and then we begin to implement and adjust based on the new data coming in. So, we've worked with brands who are just the founder. They've gotten to where they are just them. Maybe they have a virtual assistant. And then we've also worked with multi-billion dollar brands who need to have an outside marketing department to plug in and manage a specific vertical of their marketing. And so we're very versatile in that sense, where we can kind of plug and play wherever we're needed and drive some really great results for the brands that we work with.
Awesome. What would you say, if you were to think about one of your current clients, like what was one way that you came in and really supported them recently to make big shifts quickly? Or maybe not quickly, but in a timely.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, all of our clients see different results while working with us. And that really goes back to the goals, right? So oftentimes a new client will come to me and say, I just want to make more sales. That's all I care about. I just want to make more revenue. I don't know how else to do this besides social media. And oftentimes there's kind of something more underlying to that. And so that's where we typically begin. So we we were working with an interior designer recently, and she came to us, and it was just her. She had a junior interior designer who did some work here and there, but it was mainly just her. And she also had four children like yourself, and she was just getting, but they were very young children, and she was getting pulled in a bunch of different directions. Her goal was to make more sales, but ultimately the goal was to make more passive income and to send traffic to higher ticket products that required less of her time. But before working with us, she was only able to drive low ticket offer sales that required a lot of her involvement into that work. When we came in, we were able to start building out content that really connected with her audience in a different way, so that they started to understand the value that she actually brought to the table and build connection with her audience in a way that she hadn't been before. So she worked primarily with families who, wanted to make their home beautiful, but also it had to function well for, young children running around, which is also the pain point that she had prior to being an interior designer. When we started to infuse her own family into her content and to kind of talk about the struggles she's gone through and how she approaches things with her family, it started to really resonate with her clients in the content that we were creating. And she ended up making so many sales that she came to us and she was like, guys, I'm booked out. Like, we got to stop because it's too many. It's too much happening at once. I want to take a break. I want to, serve the clients that are already coming in. And I mean, that's the best case scenario, is that you have too much work coming in and too many sales from your
Right?
social media marketing.
Such a beautiful thing when you have a wait list.
Yes,
Like when you get to that
exactly.
point in your business where you're like, okay, I can't take anybody else on, but I'm going to put you right here. And as soon as somebody graduates or I'm finished with them, then like we can pull you in. Like there's so much power I think that can happen when we get to that space. And it
Yeah.
can be, like you were saying, like in the beginning, so often the clients come to you because they're struggling to get those sales, and like you finally find out what's working, what's the like what messaging is going to work, what thing like images, what's really going to connect to those ideal clients. And then like you start to see like, oh, things are actually happening, where things are starting to spin in a positive direction. And it sounds like a lot of what you do is organic marketing, as far as like you're creating content with them and you're pulling things in. Do you also do a lot of like advertisement through social media as well? Is that part of your strategy, or do you not really dabble in that area?
We are really, really great at organic marketing. That is definitely our bread and butter. And I also deeply believe that if you're going to do any kind of paid, your organic has to be in tip top shape before you begin to do paid media. With that said, the all the platforms are really leaning into a pay to play model at this point, and it's very hard to only do organic today, unfortunately, because I deeply believe in organic, but also, the apps want what they want. What we like to do when it comes to paid is it's leaning into the organic side a little bit more than traditional advertising. We like to boost the organic content with money behind the post. So when you run paid media, there's basically two ways to do it. It's boosting your organic content with money behind it so that you can target a specific demographic, location, income, whatever you want to do. Or you can create a unique ad in and of itself that is not also on your main feed, and you can also do the same kind of targeting on the back end there as well. So we do really focusing on the boosted side of content when we lean into the paid media, and our clients see really, really great results from that because we're taking the organic content that's already doing well, it's already resonating with your audience, and essentially just amplifying it.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I love that strategy, because like that piece of making sure your organic marketing is working before you put money behind it is like something I talk a lot with my clients about too, because I've seen so many clients, like I'm spending, thousands of dollars a month on advertisement. And I'm like, when we get into like the nuts and bolts of everything, I'm like, well, it's no wonder you're not making any money from it. You're basically just like throwing money out the window, because there's not the strong components in there to really call in your ideal clients and really get them to go, ooh, like, tell me more. I want to learn more. I want to, work with you, or I want to learn at least more about how you work and what that looks like. And so it's so important to not just, throw money. We don't need to throw money out the window. Like, let's make sure it's working first.
I totally agree. And like a lot of the time people look at paid media and ads as the solution to their problems. Oh, this isn't working. Let me just throw money behind it because I've been told that that works. And I wish it was that easy, but it is not, because if someone finds your ad, they're likely going to go over to your profile and look at your organic feed. And if nothing is there, or it looks totally different than your ads, or your website looks different than your ads, you're not creating a consistent consumer experience for them. Therefore, your conversions are going to be a lot lower than they should. So, even if you have a different team working on your paid versus your organic, there has to be conversation so that you're creating consistency between them in order to optimize the leads that are coming through.
Yeah, there's no need in having expenses when it comes to our marketing in that way. Like, let's make it an investment. Like, if we're going to spend, $100, we want to make we want to make 2 to 500 or 5 million from that $100,
Yeah.
not just throwing it out the window. I think, especially in this day and age, like I've seen so many of my clients just spend so much money in marketing and not see the return of investment, for the return they needed from it. And when we really got into those pieces and like identified what it was that was missing, all of a sudden, like, oh, this is why it's working now. Like, oh, this is so much easier. It makes me so much happier. I don't mind, spending money in marketing and hiring somebody to come in and help support these ways, because they're seeing that ROI come in again and again.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that that's definitely something that you're focusing in on, because I've seen so many people who like they're like, oh, I just pay to have the content put out there. And I'm like, but it's not making you any money. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Like, let's look at this and let's see how we can tweak it.
It is shocking how 95% of our clients come to me having that exact experience. They've paid for marketing in the past, their results have been terrible. They didn't get the experience from the service provider they were looking for. And oftentimes I really think that goes back to I mean, this might sound a little harsh, but wanting to do it the cheap way and not wanting to spend, thousands of dollars to get a return. But the truth is that social media marketing is how you grow a brand in 2024 and beyond. Like, there is just no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, that is how you're going to grow. Of course, you need other avenues to increase your brand awareness. You got to do things as the founder to get the name out there and to build your network and to build your connections. You can't lean on social media entirely, but also you can't expect a virtual assistant to be able to create a social media marketing strategy for you, build out strategic content, build your community, understand data, put together a report. It's like you have to bring in the experts if you're looking for expert level results. And that's something that not everyone realizes until they've gone through it on the bad side first.
But most of us go through like the school of hard knocks. Like we have to learn
Yeah.
the hard way before, at least I'll speak for myself. I definitely have had times in my business where I was like, I'll just do it myself. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to, and I'll go through it and I do okay. And then eventually I'm like, this could be so much better. And then I bring somebody else in and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why am I doing something that it's not my strength. Like I've definitely learned over the years, like play to my strengths. And if it's something that I'm not that everything's like necessarily a full on weakness, but if it's not my strength, like why am I spending so much of my time and energy, pouring into it when I have zones of geniuses and I can be working in these other areas of my business and let somebody amazing come in and support that other initiative of it.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of outsourcing. And if you don't have to be doing it, you shouldn't be doing it as the founder and as the leader of whatever it is that you're in charge of. There are a lot of people who can do things better than we can, even though we try and do it all. I am the exact same way. It's so hard to let go of the things because it's not that hard, or it's not going to take me that much time, or I could just do it over the weekend. But really, I mean, your time is the most valuable asset that you have. And if you can outsource it to someone who can do it faster, see better results from it, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. I'm like, we need to put on that CEO hat in those moments and be like, all
Yeah.
right, what is the best way for me to do this?
Yeah.
So because I know a lot of people who are running their businesses, or even if they're working inside of an organization and they have like that marketing component piece to it, or they're just building a personal brand in general. And so they're creating content so they can be well known and expert in their industry. Like, what's a good question for people to ask either you or even themselves, like whichever direction you want to take this, to really uncover why they would need to hire somebody like you to come in and support them?
I would say the question to ask is, are you getting the results that you want to be seeing right now? Right? I mean, if you're getting the results that you want to see at this point, or not outsourcing, then amazing. Like that's wonderful. The answer is typically no. And so then we can dive a little deeper into, as you said, what's the why behind this? What's the reason you're not getting it? Is it, do you not have the right people to back up the work? Are you not clear on your goals? Are you not on the right platforms? Do you understand your target audience? These are all things that I like to kind of dive a little deeper in. But I would ask yourself that, and really, I mean, when you ask yourself that question, am I really seeing the results that I'm wanting to see? I would break it up into different categories as well. Is if part of that is conversions and the answer is no, how what would get you the conversions that you're wanting to see? Do you think that you need to post more? Do you think that you need to be more active yourself in the account? Do you think that you need to post more video content? Because those answers, as you kind of chip away at that question, are going to kind of give you clues into maybe the right team or the right person that you should be hiring to fill this role, and also allow you to get clarity on questions to then ask that person or that team that you're wanting to bring in. Is this something that you're really great at? Is this something that you can support me with? And that will likely lead to a better hire at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, when you think back to like before you started your own business and the work that you were doing, what like leadership skill do you think you've carried over from your prior careers into the work that you're doing today that's really benefited and served you the most?
That's such a great question. It's so funny because leadership has been, it's something that I don't think anyone really realizes they have to hone in so much during their career. And I mean, I left corporate when I was 25. Like, I was not in a leadership position. I didn't have anyone that I was managing by any means. I had zero leadership experience. And I made my first hire for 95 Media when I was 21. I was a terrible boss because I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to manage expectations, how to delegate work properly. And as we've grown, I mean, our team today is a team of 7 women on our team. And while that might seem small, that's a
It's huge.
fair big number for a small business.
Yeah.
And it's been a real experience in my own journey to develop those leadership skills. What I've found is that communication is always what I come back to. And it's what I drive home to every single person on the team. Like, this is our baseline number one priority always is communicate your expectations, communicate how you're feeling about a certain experience. Come to me before something is a problem. Let's be proactive on this. I mean, communication takes so many different forms, but especially building a team of women, which is a core part of our business. And it's really important to me that I work with women and that I empower more women to grow in their own careers. I think communication is even more important with women than
Yeah.
even with men. So it's a really big driving factor for us, and it's definitely something that I myself have continued to develop over the years, and something that I also develop within my own team too.
Yeah, I love that. Communication's definitely, I teach communication inside of organizations with leaders and their teams to really be able to speak up and use their voice in those situations. And it's
Yeah.
powerful when we can speak clearly and concise and succinctly and get our message across without all the extra, and we're clear and people really get where we're going without it having to feel like it takes so much longer to get to the point that we're trying to say.
Right. And even just feeling empowered to say things like that and not feel scared that, someone is going to get angry at you for telling them like how you're feeling. And it sometimes I feel like I'm like teaching in a classroom and I'm like with children, I'm like, here's how we express our feelings. But it's so like we're as adults, we're not taught this. And so many careers, so many managers don't really allow their team to express, certain things throughout their career paths. But it's important to me that that is, front and center, and that we can communicate and that we communicate well with our clients. Because what I've found to be the most true in anything that we do is that the more that we communicate with our clients and just kind of keep them up to date on everything, because often they're not super clear on the work that we're doing because they don't understand it, which is totally fine. That's why we're here. But the more that we can communicate along the way, the more trust is developed with the client. And that makes their experience better, and it makes our job easier, and it just creates a overall better, work environment. So not only communicating well within the team, but also outward facing as well.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned even just all the different emotions that we feel, because I think we forget sometimes when we're in a work setting, we think we're professional, we're trying to like keep it all together. We forget that like we still have every emotion, even if we don't want to have them in that environment. We get angry and sad and we want to cry or like whatever those emotions are. Like, how do we express those? I think like this, the terminology, like I feel
Yeah.
blank can be so powerful. And it's not like you said blank and like you're not pointing the finger, you're just sharing, like, this is how I feel right now. And this is what's coming up for me. And I think it's important. Like, I wish everybody would take into account, like, we're all human. We all have all the emotions. We're all doing all the things. We've got, families and careers, and we're volunteering and we're doing like we're balancing like a juggler in some
Yeah.
ways. We're throwing all the balls up in the air and we're trying to catch them all at the same time. How do we just like show up and be like, this is who I am and this is how I'm feeling and this is what's going on right now? It doesn't mean it's going to be that way in 5 minutes. Because sometimes, I can have 10 different emotions all within
Oh my
30
God.
seconds. And I'm like, okay, that was a lot of feels.
Yeah. I mean, that's the experience of an entrepreneur is literally a roller coaster of emotions every single day. 9 a.m. I could be up here, and by 9:34 I'm down at the bottom, and then by the end of the day I'm exhausted because of just this roller coaster that I've been on. And then you add 7 people into the mix, and it's all of these other emotions as well. So exactly what you're saying. I mean, we just have to be able to kind of take accountability for our own emotions and then share that with others so that we can work through it and continue to develop as a team to serve, do the work that we're doing the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this conversation, Emma. I think it's so important that we pay attention to like the emotions, the feels, and we give ourselves grace and space to just be
Yeah.
and own that. Like we don't have to be on at all given points. Like there's moments where we're going to be on fire and things are going to like click completely, and there's going to be days where we're like, I just need a minute.
Yeah. For
um,
sure.
I could keep going down this rabbit hole, but I'm going to pull us back up because I want to make sure that we hear from you. Like before we go into rapid fire questions, I'd love just to hear from you when you think about the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making. Like, what do you wish people would know about your industry? And like how could you like maybe demystify like a myth, or what people sometimes come to you and say, well, I don't want to hire you because of this, or I don't think I need you because I got this myself. Like, what's something that you could shift somebody's thought process on when it comes to the line of work that you do?
One of the things I would shift would be a lot of brands come and say, well, let me preface this by saying I don't ever want to convince somebody that they need to hire us. If you're this is always so funny to me when someone books a sales call with me and then they get on the call and they expect me to convince them that like they need our services. I'm like, but you reached out to us. So what are we doing here? But one of the things I hear so often is that these kind of heritage brands, the older businesses who have been around for a while, they still get a lot of business as referral or word of mouth, and they question why they would need to invest in social media marketing when their other lead channels have served them so well over the past 20 years, let's say. And this conversation that I always end up having when this comes up is that that experience of word of mouth is changing as we look ahead to the future, because the people who used to refer business word of mouth to you maybe 10 years ago may only have known about your brand in this sector because they didn't have the exposure to all of these other businesses that they now do with social media. And so it's really important to always be, in my opinion, 10 steps ahead of your competition. If your competition is not on TikTok and you think that that's the reason why you don't need to be on TikTok as well, I would argue the complete opposite. That means that there's all this white space for you on this platform because you don't have competition there.
Mhm.
In my opinion, looking at opportunity and how to do things differently is how you scale a business long term. So I would demystify the idea that what worked for you and what has been working for you is what's going to continue to work for you. I really believe that we all need to always be 10 steps ahead, be innovating our current processes and preparing for what's to come, because even what's current today in 2024 is not going to be the landscape of business in 2026 even. So thinking, how am I future proofing this brand if it's something that you want to keep going?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because it's just like buying a new car or a new computer or anything. Like as soon as you buy it and you like get on board, like the next one's coming out, the next model, the next new
Yeah.
greatest thing. And so I know, especially with social media, like we've seen that over the years. It was uh, MySpace. So I'll take us way back, like, and then Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and like there's all these different platforms now, and there's still new things popping up, and some of them don't really take off, some of them do. Um, it makes me curious, like, what is your favorite platform to play on?
My favorite platform personally is still Instagram. I just have, the most connections and conversations still on Instagram. But I really enjoy creating over on TikTok because it just lends itself to more rawness and more like funny entertainment style content, which is just more fun to create. But
Yeah.
in terms of scrolling and consuming content, I still really enjoy Instagram.
All right, cool. Well, I was taking us into rapid fire questions, and I snuck that one in, I guess, before I even did the rapid fire, but I
Oh,
was just
perfect.
curious. what you did, especially as a, you play in that space a lot for business and for play. I know we all have those places. I still have Facebook and Instagram, and I still feel like LinkedIn is where I connect better with people at this point in time, and we
Yeah.
can talk offline. And my community knows, like in 2020, I lost my Facebook and Instagram. Like I got hacked and I never got those accounts back. So I
Oh my
lost
God.
so much stuff, which is why it's so important. And I always tell my clients, like, have social media as a great place to nurture, but you also want to have a newsletter list, like get those people onto your own platform as well. Like that's definitely a message when it comes to social media that I have, and I think probably you would
Oh
probably
yeah.
very similar. Like we don't own it, and we can
Yeah.
play, we can have so much fun there, but at the end of the day, like how do we make sure we keep those people in our sphere of influence and stay in touch with them? If you get hacked and you lose your account and you don't ever get it back, which is so sad that I still never got those accounts back, but I've started new ones and I'm over it now and I'm okay.
Past the pain. It's fine. No,
Past the
I
pain.
say the same thing all the time. You're building your audience on social to get them off social. You by no means are trying to build an audience of 100,000 people and never get them off the platform. You have to get them onto an email list. You have to get them as subscribers to your podcast. You have to get them on another platform because as you experience your account can be gone tomorrow and there's literally nothing you can do about it. You have to like prep your brand for that.
And you just never know. Like that's like the
No,
saddest, scariest part. Like we don't know. I mean, just in life in general, we don't know what tomorrow holds, but how do we make sure, especially as we're growing these businesses, that we don't work so hard to build up these social platforms and then, something happens and all of a sudden we're like, we lost all those contacts, all those people. How do we still stay in touch with them? And I love that we have podcasts now and we have newsletter lists and we have, dance parties on TikTok. Like you can do all the places, all the different things, and you can stay connected in ways that just feel fun.
for sure.
So to get over to those rapid fire questions, I would love to hear from you. Like, what do you do, Emma, if you need to reflect, recharge, reset yourself? Like, what's something that just fills you back up when you feel like you're a little overwhelmed and exhausted?
Sleep. I never get enough sleep during the week. It's just, I don't know. I love starting work really early in the morning so that I can get things done before Slack starts going off and my email starts going off. And so with that just comes like an early wake up time. So I love getting into bed. I mean, like absurdly early, like 8 p.m. I will be in my pajamas in bed, just like relaxing, watching a stupid show like Love Island and just relaxing, by myself, decompressing because it's funny that I'm on Zoom calls almost all day, every day. And during the week, sometimes I'll go days without actually seeing another human person in real life, but just Zoom calls will take it out of you and they really will exhaust you. So I just by myself, maybe like a tea at night, watching a reality show, just going to bed early. It's like my favorite.
I love me some sleep too.
Yeah.
When you think about the impact and the legacy that you want to leave, what are some things that are really like important to you to have as part of your footprint?
Definitely working with female founded brands is a huge part of my personal passion to help, other female founders grow their brands and to hit that $1 million mark, which only 2% of female founders actually hit, is definitely a big driver for me. So many of the brands that we've worked with fall into that 2%, which is so incredible. But working with more female founded brands, continuing to develop women on our team that can help them in their own career. And I mean, ultimately, the impact that I want to leave with 95 Media is just being of service to other businesses and helping them grow, utilizing this incredible tool that we all have access to, but when done correctly, can just amplify a brand beyond what a lot of people realize.
Love that. All right, my last question for the day is if I could buy you a ticket to anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
What a great question. I would probably say Paris. I just love going to Paris. I go pretty often and it's just like such a wonderful city. It I'm from New York originally and I lived in Manhattan for 8 years and Paris just reminds me a lot of Manhattan. And it's just such a good energy over there. So I think I'd have to go Paris.
Let's go. Let's plan it. Let's do it, Emma.
Yeah, let's go.
Emma, this has been so fun having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I know people are going to want to connect. Where is the best place for them to reach out and connect with you at?
For sure. So our website is 95media.co, all spelled out. Instagram, like I said, is where I'm the most active. Our handle is 90.5.media, again, all spelled out. All of our links are between our website and our Instagram. They're there, but I mean, we're active on every single platform. So whichever one you like the most will be there. And we also have a podcast called Stop Scrolling, Start Scaling, where we talk all things marketing. If you more, you know, social media marketing or specific over there. And I have linked our free course in the show notes as well. It's called Master Your Marketing. It's a really, really value packed course where there's a ton of video content in there, just a lot of great material if you're looking to DIY your marketing, to learn some behind the scenes on how we approach strategies. So is where you can start side.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emma. I know I'm going to go check out that resource as well. And that's a wrap, everybody, for another episode of the Attract and Stand Out podcast. If you have not yet, please hit subscribe to the podcast. It means the world to me when you connect further. And if you're willing to, I'd love if you'd leave a review. The more reviews we have, the easier it is for us to make an impact in the world and get more people to come and learn from us. As always, remember, I believe in you. You're allowed to stand out. You're allowed to shine. You're allowed to be you. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.